Baruch Hashem. Okay, so today, Amen, we're going to study class on the Tehilim. We're continuing. Do you need any paper or anything to write? Okay, amazing. So we are going to continue with Perek aleph of the Tehilim, right? Last week we were saying that David HaMelech compiled the Sefer Tehilim, and he chose specifically to give us some very important lessons of life in the first Perek, in the first chapter. And we saw that the first chapter speaks about the importance of making sure to be influenced by the right people and not to walk. Hold on just 1 second, sorry. So last week we were saying the first Perek, the first chapter, has to be infused with very important lessons because he chose it. It was not written in a certain order. He wrote the chapters, and all the other psalmists wrote chapters, and then he compiled them in a certain order. So obviously it makes sense that the first chapter will be infused with very important lessons of life. And the first one is be careful of the influence. That's what we saw last week. Today, we're going to keep on learning this first chapter. And I'm going to share with those of you who are on Zoom. So last week we were saying the importance of the influence. We're going to read that chapter again. אשרי האיש אשר לא הלך בעשת חשעים, ובדרך חטאים לא עמד, ובמושב לצים לא ישב. כי אם בתורת אדוני חפצו ובתורתו יהגה יומם ולילה. והיה כעץ שתול על פלגי מים, אשר פריו ייתן בריתו ורעלהו לא ייבול, וכל אשר יעשה יצליח. לא כן הרשעים כי אם כמוץ אשר תדפנו רוח. על כן לא יקומו רשעים במשפט, וחטאים בעד הצדיקים. כי יודע אדוני דרך צדיקים ודרך רשעים תאבד. So we're going to read it in English. You have it? No, you don't have it? Sarah will give it to you when you come back. You have it, right? Okay, Sarah will give it to you when she comes back. It's somewhere in our papers over there. So, happy is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scorners, but whose delight is in the Torah of the Lord, and in his Torah he meditates day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season. Its leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. The wicked are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the wicked shall not stand in the judgment, nor the sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked shall perish. Okay? So, Shlomo HaMelech says, there is one who speaks harshly like piercing of a sword, but the tongue of the wise heals. Today we're going to speak about how to use positive words to address someone, even when we do a tochacha, even when we reproach something to someone, or when we speak with people, to choose positive words. Why? Because here we see that first chapter of the Tehilim could have been said, listen, like, guy, you want to be a good person? Don't stay with those wicked people, okay? Like, he uses a way to address that lesson in a very positive way, like trying to see the good, instead of saying, for instance, to our kids, oh, you're stupid or what, okay? like, my love, there's a wiser path for you to act. Okay. It's very important. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much. She was last?
Non, il y en avait deux. Il y en a un qui était très vénère.
Why?
Elle dit, je sais pas répondre à mon téléphone, moi j'étais confuse.
Okay. So the godly power of words. So we know that when Akadosh Baruch Hu created this world, he created it with 10 utterance, right? Which means since we were created in his image, yeah, that's for the first class, you can take it. Since we were created in his image, we too have the power of speech. With our speech, with our words, we can either build or destroy. It is so important to know that. I told you many times that story, and maybe not to you precisely, but in Teresemas, the kids used to have like a science fair every year. And so what is a science fair? It's a fair, it's an exhibit where kids show their science projects, okay? And a few years ago, I told my kids, you know what, let's do something interesting. Let's try to do a scientific project on the power of speech. So we took 4 different pots. On each pot, we put cotton, right? And on this cotton, we put some beans, the regular beans that we put in the dafina or in the cholent for Shabbat, right? Dry, not cooked. The dry beans. And we will try to see how our words, our speech impacts the reality, the matter, okay? The physical.
At what age you can do that?
You can start at any time. I did it with my kids when they were little. Maybe Eitan was 5 or 6 and Ellie was 3. It doesn't matter. They see. It's very important that they see and for us, but for them also, because sometimes and so let me finish the experiment. No, don't worry. So you take 4 different pots, right? And you put cotton and dry beans. And on each pot, you're going to write a sticker or with a Sharpie, you're going to write the first pot, just water. On the second pot, going to write bad words, okay? Negative speech. On the third pot, positive speech. And on the fourth pot, Tehilim.
So what's the name first?
The first pot is
Water.
just water. Okay? And then every single day, you're gonna water the beans with the same amount of water. This is a scientific experiment. So you have to make it really scientific. So you have like a measuring cup and you water. You don't drown, the beans, but you put a little bit of water, okay? And the one that says just water, you don't say any words around it when you plant it. And you also put it in an area of your house where you're not going to be speaking so much, so that it's not influenced by the words during the day, and not only so in the garage, if you have a garage, somewhere where there's not so much speech, okay? You water, just water. Second pot, you water and you say, you're such a stupid little bean. You will never grow. You are worth nothing. If I had known you would be this kind of bean, I would never have given life to you. Okay, I don't like you. I hate you. Such a stupid bean. Third pot, you say beautiful, positive words. My cutie pie, you're such an amazing being. I trust you. I know that you will grow to become a beautiful plant and you will have beautiful leaves. And I love you. And you're such a special being to me. It looks really crazy to do that. but try it. Fourth pot, you water it also with the same amount of water as the other pots. But now you're going to read Tehilim. You don't say anything else, just Lam Natser Mismor Le David. Up. You leave that. And you do the same the second day, the third day, the fourth day. And you have like this little scientific journal where you write down your observations of the day. Today, I saw that a little germ came out of the bin. Today, I saw that the bin started opening, cracking out. Today, I saw a leaf coming out, okay? And I'm going to tell you the results, the observation of this scientific experiment that we did a few years back then. It's not going to be the exact numbers, but the proportions will be kept. So the first one that says just water had grown after 7 days 1.9 inches. 1.9 inches of like a little stem, right? With no leaves, just a cute little stem like that. The second one, where we vomited bad speech on, right? This one grew 1.7 inches, no stem, but it wasn't developed like the other one. It was less high and it was like curved, right? The third pot, where we said positive speech on it, grew 2.1 inches, so higher than just water, and had one leaf. Okay? The fourth one with the Tehilim, 2.4 inches with 2 leaves. Okay, we did it every year for many years. It's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same measurements each time, but we keep the same ratio. Okay, so it's very interesting to see that. I advise you to do it with your family because it's really fun to see. Okay, so we have that godly power of words. We have the power to create with our words, with our mouth. Whatever we say impacts the reality.
It's like the law of attraction. Do you believe in that?
I do believe in
No,
that,
I'm saying
but it's not the same. Yes, that's called positive thinking, because you attract what you think, right?
I think Rabbi Nachman says that, though.
Yeah, it's even beforehand, before Rabbi Nachman, but yeah, he emphasizes on that. But in the Kabbalah, in the Torah, it says that. Definitely, that's
Like
the
visualization.
positive. Sure, whatever you envision, whatever you think of has an impact on your reality. You create your reality with what you think. But what you think doesn't have the same impact as what you say, because it's already a step further in externalizing that reality. Does it make sense? Okay, so you were not there for the first class, but in the first class, we spoke about how HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. He created the world through dimming his light through a process of filters. Those filters are called the Sephirot, right? There are 10 Sephirot, 10 filters, okay? Those filters are the way something is created in this world. Chokhmah, Bina, and that are the first filters, the first Sephirot, right? Why? Because Chokhmah is, oh, I have an idea, right? I have an idea of a retreat, right? I want to make a spiritual retreat. That's Chokhmah. That's the idea. Now, what's going to happen for it to really be real? How are we going to make this idea become a reality? First, Bina, understanding, being able to distinguish what is exactly that spiritual retreat I want to create, right? da'at, the knowledge. What do I need to know about the spiritual retreat in order to be able to make it work? This is only chokhmah, bina, and da'at. This is only the intellectual part of creating. Hi, Olivia, how are you? Welcome to the Midrasha. This is only the intellectual part of the process of creating in reality. Okay. After that comes, if you want, you have also some books. Oh, you have a notebook. Okay. After that, you have to go through other steps, which is chesed, gvura, tiferet, netzar. Those are the process that we are going to implement in order to make something come to reality. Okay. So when you think and when you say, you're in a different stage of realization. When I think, it's less physical than when I say. If I think, oh my God, she really, I don't know, like, she really is such a tzaddiket. I think that. It's very nice of me to think that. But when I say, wow, you're such a tzaddika, I externalized something. It has more reality, physical reality, than my thoughts only. Does it make sense now?
Yes, but you talk about the impact.
Exactly. The thought and the words do not have the same impact. Why? Because you're not at the same stage of realization. When you think of something, Hashem could have only thought the world. He thought the world first somehow, because he's not within the concept of time. But before saying the world and creating the world with his speech, he first had the idea, right? We're going to take the creation of man, for instance. What did in Bereshit we learn? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to himself, let's create a human, a being in our image. So first there's this idea. I am going to create a human in my image. And then he says it. And then he forms it. He shapes it. He creates it. Bara, really like through physical world, physicality. But first comes the thought, then the speech, then the creation. So speech is a more material expression of the will than just thought.
But what about the opposite? Like, we all have negative thoughts, obviously.
Mhm.
God forbid some person think this car is going to hit me, or God forbid.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
You know how that also an impact?
Of course
Or is
it
that
does.
just-
Positive thinking. So where whatever you think does create a reality also.
Even negative?
Even negative
All
thinking. All thinking. What we think,
Like, I always have these like weird thoughts of like
Yes.
somewhere someone's gonna hit me or something, like fear, I guess.
yes,
I don't know.
fears.
Yeah.
So fears are created by your imagination. Those fears, what we call like anxiety, or like those are negative patterns created by the imagination. In the first class, if you listen to the recording, you will, from last week, where we speak about divine soul and animal soul, you will understand that the animal soul is really driving the physical needs of the person. And it is influencing the divine soul, and it's misguiding it towards a self-indulgent direction. So because I went through a trauma, right? Because I went through a certain event in my life, I might have the idea in my mind that I am in danger in a situation where I am not in danger. For instance, someone who heard about a car accident where there was a physical damage might think, oh, what's going to happen? I'm going in my car, like maybe something is going to happen to me, God forbid, da, 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 da. These are the images created by the animal soul or the Yetzer Hara. Why? It wants to use your very powerful imagination to divert you from your mission of being in sync with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this moment. When you are, and you will see, the Yetzer Hara is never speaking to you about now. It's speaking to you about the future. What can happen if? What if? What if only, okay? Or the past. Why did you do that? Bringing guilt or fear, right?
Why not about the present?
Because in the present, you know that there is not, if you actually relate, come back, bring back your thoughts to the present moment, you will feel that in this present moment, there is no such thing as a real threat. Even in moments of real danger, because fear, we remember we spoke about that a few weeks ago when we were speaking about emotions. Fear is an emotion that enables us to survive of a physical danger. That's why fear was created. But now we have fears that are led by our imagination. There is no real threat, and yet I'm scared of the dark. Okay, let's take a little girl, okay, who has like a shadow. I'm going to take my example. When I was a little girl, I had like a chalkboard in my room, and it was the shape of a tree. But at night, because of the shadows, it looked like a monster. And do you know how many times I slept underneath my blanket because I thought that the monster would would attack me? Sometimes I was crying and I was telling my mom, please, mommy, come, there's a monster in the room. She would turn on the light and say, it's not the monster, look, it's your chalkboard. It's the shape of the tree. But every time she would turn off the light, my imagination would take over. Yeah, but it transforms into a monster. Okay. The reality is very often like that. If you, for instance, like someone who has an anxiety of, who is very scared about her health, okay? Wow, I felt that I have tingling in the fingers on my left arm. Maybe I'm having a heart attack, God forbid, okay? It could happen that someone has this type of fears, right? What is going on right now? This person is actually feeling her arm tingling, but the tingling could just be because she remained with her arm pressed for some time, or just because maybe the nervous system is sensitive and she has tingling in the arm. It doesn't mean that she's going to have a heart attack, but the Yetzer Hara will take that information, relate it with whatever other information she has on how does a heart attack can be prevented. Oh, if you feel that you have pain in your left arm and this and that, and the imagination will mix it together and make her believe, oh, you might have a heart attack. And the thing is, the funny thing is, the fear, remember we said that it's the emotion to survive a danger. What do you need to survive a danger? To fight or flight, right? In both ways, what do you need? You need oxygen and strength in your upper arms, in your arms and in your legs. So when you have fear, when you experience fear, the heart is going to pump very fast in order to activate the blood to go not as much in the brain as it is when you're not in fear, but more in the arms and the legs. So you're going to feel, oh my God, I might have a heart attack. Why? My heart is beating very fast. But this is because of the fear. This is not because you're having a heart attack. And my arms feel weird and my legs feel weird. Yes, because you're experiencing the effects of fear in a moment where there is no real danger. So you are not running but your body is experiencing the consequences of fear in order to save itself from a danger, which is not real. It's an imagination danger. So the problem is that it nourishes the bad thoughts, and it increases, and that's how you fell into you fall into anxiety crisis, right? And how do you get out of this anxiety crisis? By reducing the oxygen, by blowing into a paper bag. Why? Because it reduces a little bit the oxygen. You reduce the level of oxygen, and you also wait. And you can tell yourself, in this moment, I am serene, I am calm, nothing is happening. I am breathing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sending me the gift of life through my breath. When you breathe, we said like you're receiving the constant nishmat chaim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In this moment, I am grateful for that breath. In this moment, each second, you can bring back yourself and your thoughts to the present moment. And because in this moment you are safe, your heartbeat is going to slow down. The fear is going to disappear. You are taking back the lead of your mind. And you are now in control in this moment. And slowly, you're reducing the anxiety crisis. Okay? So the thoughts are very powerful. We even said that Rabbi Nachman, which she visited last week, said, hello, Sarah, so good to see you. Yes.
How are you?
Oh my God. Oh yeah, it's 11:30. We're gonna finish that. But I just wanna wait, where is that? Oh, this. How disappointed will we be when we realize that whatever limited us was just in our imagination, right? So yes, what imagination, thoughts have a power on the physical reality, but not only, the speech even more. Okay, even halachically, we find examples, for instance, in the laws of Taharat HaMishpacha. If a woman says, I am a nida, she is a nida, even though she is not, apparently. She creates a reality. How important it is. What we say has an impact on the reality. Why do we do Atarat Nedarim, the cancellation of the promises? Because do we realize that when I say, yeah, in 5 minutes I'm coming, really? Did you come 5 minutes after? Oh yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. Did you call the next day? This is a neder. When you say something, it impacts your reality. So it's so important to realize that. And that's why David HaMelech places this hint in the first chapter of the Tehilim, because we need to realize not only the importance of the influence of the rest of the world, as we saw last week, but that through our speech, we have a power to create. And so we should be mindful, of course, of what we think that precedes what we say, but also of what we say. Doris was saying, but what we think also has an impact on the reality. Yes, it's less physical, and therefore it's also very powerful. The thought is less limited. It's more illimited than the speech. And I can tell you that because my English vocabulary is very limited, and I feel so frustrated to teach in English, for instance, rather than in French. But even though I was speaking in my own language, I would still be limited compared to my thoughts because there's only a few words I can use to describe the limited ideas that I have in my mind, right? So when I speak, I'm unfaithful to my thoughts because there is nothing that can reflect the exact dimension that I had in my mind. And even when I try to verbalize it in my head, even if I try to not say it with words from my mouth, but even if I try to conceptualize it in my head, I will lose the essence of the exact idea. The original idea is much more illimited than when I am going to try to define it. Every time I define it, I conceptualize it, I go one step lower in the physicality. So I give it more chance to be actualized in reality, but at the same time, I lose of its essence. So voila for today, for the Tehilim class. And now we are very grateful to have a very inspired lunch, both on Zoom and in person, with Sarah, Olivia, and Leslie,